everybody. This is Joe Conflagration. I'm the creator of Boys from Boston. Got a couple of items to update. The first is the name. We are going to change the name from Boys from Boston to Boys from Boston and Beyond. And we're doing that only to expand the base of characters that we can interview. Boston still has plenty, but there is a limited amount of people to get these really interesting characters, and there's so many worldwide, countrywide, that we're going to expand that. And with that said, to expand the channel so we can maybe update some of the bells and whistles on the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you just hit the subscribe button and the like button. That helps the channel grow. You've heard it a million times on any YouTube channel, so I'm just repeating what you've heard. I'm sure you understand. Again, it's just a matter of subscribing, and then when something comes up, it comes up on your feed, but it really isn't going to bother anybody other than the fact that you'll know when we have a new video. So we're expanding everything. We want to upgrade it a little. We're looking for great characters, and I'll give you another update as soon as we start moving forward on this. All right? Thank you. I'm about to introduce you to Mike Foley, retired Boston Fire Department lieutenant, who during his career, or just before his career, before he went in the Marine Corps when he was a young man, he actually was at the Bellflower Street fire. And I'm going to let him talk about that. So with no further ado, welcome, Mike.
Appreciate you being here. Happy to be here.
All right, so let's talk about the upcoming video we're going to do with the former chief, Christian. So tell us a little bit about your day there and what we'll be talking about that historic fire.
Okay, well, I wound up going there almost by mistake. I was visiting my father in the firehouse when the fire happened, and he was doing something different. That he was driving a chief, which is not his regular job. And we heard the alarms going off, and we saw the smoke in the sky. And I went over to the fire in a Ford Thunderbird. Was a friend of someone's. And when I got there, it was probably 4 minutes or so after the fire started, or the fire department was notified. And I remember getting there at the same time as the deputy chief, Freddie Klaus. I saw him outside his car putting his fire coat on. And I had met him once or twice before, so I knew who he was. And it was essentially, it was a firestorm. A firestorm creates enough heat and wind that it feeds on itself. And that's what was going on there. It was a dry day with a moderate wind from, I think, the southwest is what they call it. And it burned down 19 buildings. But it was just unreal. There's never been anything like it before in Boston or since. And this was 1964 in May.
And you're talking about in magnitude?
Yeah, and the number of buildings. They've had, buildings 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 even, but never 19 like this fire. It was unprecedented. It was crazy.
And there was more than just the 19. There was plenty of them that were damaged, correct?
Yeah, there were several. They had over, I think it was 250 roof fires in the general area, like within a square mile. The embers from the fire were, going through the air and landing on rooftops in the nearby communities and setting those houses on fire. It was wow. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we've done Bellflower before, especially. So we've showed the video of that beautiful color footage we have, and then the black and white of you being there.
Oh yeah.
But this one we're going to do with former Commissioner Christian.
Yeah.
This is going to be about how that fire was fought, and we had talked about this before. You can bring it up again now about how when those firefighters got there, the chiefs were mainly World War II guys. They've had plenty of experience fighting or in conflict, let's put it that way, and how they worked as a team almost without having to communicate too much. Is that right? Explain what we're going to talk about.
And remember, back then they didn't have portable radios.
Right.
The only radio was on the fire engine or in the chief's car itself. The chiefs didn't have portable radios at that time either. So yeah, like you said, everybody just worked automatically, and it was quite a sight to see. It was Paul Christian, the chief will interview. It retired as a commissioner, but he's also a deputy chief in Division 1 in Boston, where Freddie Klaus, the Bellflower Street deputy, had been assigned at the time. So Paul brings a very interesting perspective to this whole thing as a deputy, what he'd be looking for. He's also very astute, very knowledgeable about wooden buildings and about the area in general. And he will have a lot of insight into what was running through Freddie Klaus's mind as he approached, saw the fire, and saw what was happening and what was possible and what they had to do to stop it. And if we're lucky enough to get Eric Pettaway, he would be able to give you some really good insight on what the first arriving chief, Bob Green from District 6, what he saw and what he did in response to what he saw. I hope we can get Eric. He's the best chief in the city of Boston right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. And
I
it's
think
funny
so.
because you and I have talked about this before, and this is a long-awaited video, I'm sure, by
Oh, yeah.
people who are, especially into the, firefighting world. But the getting there and containing this massive fire so quickly and the teamwork involved, I think that's going to be incredibly important.
What happened, essentially, the fire turned out to be 4 separate fires. It was it was attacked from the east end and the west end of 2 different streets, adjacent streets, run parallel. It was Dorset Street and Bellflower Street. So they had a fire on either end of both of those streets, and there were 4 little command staffs set up there of other deputies that came to the fire. And so, but there was no communication, like I said, between them and the other chiefs. So they were just doing what they were doing, taking care of their little piece of the whole fire. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is, I think it's 8 minutes from the time Ladder 20 arrived. 8 minutes later, they had the fire completely surrounded, which is mind-boggling to think. And the only way they could have done that was, as you suggested, they were a lot of World War II guys had seen a lot worse things, and they didn't panic. They just went about and did their job, and it was to their credit that they put it out as quickly as they did.
A lot to be said for that experience.
Oh, yeah.
I think today's world, you and I have talked about it. Of course, you'd know it more. I've just listened. That, a lot of these guys don't fight big fires. And when you get to your first one, that matters.
Of course it does.
Yeah. So, I think that's interesting. So what we'll do is this will be our introduction. This is a long-awaited, video coming up. And I'm hoping to get the interview with you and former Commissioner Christian and Eric Pettaway if we can.
Yeah, I'll work on Eric.
All right, you do.
Yeah.
All right, so that's cool. And I will give you a call afterwards.
All right, sounds like a deal.
All right, anything else? Am I missing it?
I don't think so.